Alii and hello, I'm your host Erythrin Yergalau, and welcome back to another episode of the Oceanic Podcast, a project produced by UC Berkeley's Critical Pacific Islands Studies Collective, otherwise known as CPISC. I'm here with Dr. Tellei, and today we'll be continuing where we left off our last episode with our conversation on Palau's traditional government system. The questions that I have are going to be about specifically the traditional government of Palau, the executive, legislative, and judiciary branch, as you mentioned when we were talking about like the traditional practices of Palau. And I want to start off with, before the introduction of Western governmental systems to Palau, how did the systems of leadership operate?
There's age-old story or legends about the leadership that came from Peleliu and Angaur and to the main island. It came with the development of the Bai, and then the hierarchy was established. So there are each of the major villages in Palau, that's all 14 except Hatove and Sonsorol, which are new addition to Palau, have pretty much the same structure, where there's 10 the capital villages. For instance, like if you use Airai, for example, the Ngarai Rai, which is the Ordomel in the what we now call the state of Airai. It has 10 ranking chiefs, and every one of the people within Airai can connect to that those 10 we call them the clans, the clan from those proper, and then those individual villages are connected to families, and extended families are extended to those village level titles and chieftainship, and then they go to Airai. So the same thing with the leadership structure, the same thing with LDBL. Like for instance, I'm the head of Ngar Olod in the men's club in Oygul. So when we're in Oygul, we're Ngar Olod, and I'm the head of that group. When we all cross Ngarigil and all come to Airai, then we're all Ngarabras in Airai. And I try to explain to the young men in Oygul, many of whom are also educated, and some of them feel that, hey, we don't have to, we're not subservient to those people. And that's like the beginning of the breakdown of this order, because we grew up knowing that when you leave Oygul, you're Ngarabras, and if you leave Ngrusar, you're Ngarabras, you're no longer Ngara Classic. If you leave Ngatkip, you're Ngarabras instead of Ngara Maliwe. But then because we've created these organizations, and some are actually well-to-do, and some of the leaders of Ngarabras are not strong enough, then these people will find their own place to be standing, because they see themselves as competing with the other LDBL within Palau. So I think it's, when the head is strong, the rest of the body is strong. Otherwise, they'll have to find their own way. And there are certain relationships, like for instance in Airai. So Airai, I'll use that as an example because you're familiar with it. So Airai can be divided into three. There's, when we divide Airai, it is the Spadal, Ordomel, and Ngargadam, which is the east side of which is considered the tip of the spear. That's Oygul and Asang, and in the order, Oygul first, and then Asang, and then of course Ordomel, which continue all the way to Kev, all the way to the entrance to the airport as we know it today. I think right now it's going to be called the Belias Road or Belias Highway. And then from that point, it will be Ngargadam. So Ngargadam will be composed of Ngrusar, Ngrulwobel, and Ngatkip. So that's three Airai. And then the kids are taught that when you divide Airai into 6 parts, then you go to the individual hamlet. So that's ang Asaang, Oygul, Ordomel, Ngrusar, Ngrulwobel, and Ngatkip. So those are the 6 hierarchy. And every one of those hierarchy, they're composed of the 10 chiefs. They have the 10, in the case of Airai, Ngarai Rai, and their counterpart, which you will grow into eventually. are called ngasagabuy. So you're aspiring to be a ngasagabuy, and the day will come when you will be feasted into those position, and uh, and if you true Palawan woman, so you will have a child, a boy will be in line for that chieftainship in Ordom. A woman, same to follow and extend the matrilineal line. Because no matter what happened, it's the child of the woman, the OL, who is responsible. Because the men, but the boys or young men from your clan in Irai, the Palawan term is, we used the term dang masyole. Dang masyole mean that they revered by you. Their everything that's best is given to them because they are the children of their fathers. They know the history of this house. Their mothers are from a different clan, so they're in line to hold those title from the different clans. So that's the, and of course you know that the clan Kablil is composed of a collection of tulungal, and then the collection of tulungal is made by the collection of ongal, and of course those collection of ongal are made by the group of the single family unit, which is Azam Adil, and then they go to collection of. So think of it this way. So ongal is the children of husband and wife. Ongal is the children of brothers and sisters, and then from there they make a gablil, and gablil comes to blue. And of those, the men, the ulel, which is the children of the male, will be those kind of in the Palawan sense, we say the tagalela tangadidigrarail, because they're not really expendable, but they will protect their women folks at all costs because they are the bearers of the chains for this titleship. Are there problems in Palau? Yes, definitely there are problems in Palau because you have different tulungal that comes together, and then among them will be selected the chief. They're all rightful heirs to the title. I will say it in Palawan, and I'll try to explain in English because to be able to get the title, there are 5 qualifications that I've actually created after listening to so many people and learning from the elders and my dad especially and others. There's 5 qualifications for a chief. In the Palawan, it says Ngirel, Sabel, Mlamoes, Telut Kororot, Makakngir Klobak. So Kirel means there are 5 qualifications of Kirel. The first one is OL, the child of a woman, all the way to extended family. And when there's not enough male of the right age, then you go to the children of the male. But only they can rise to the title. And then you go to extended clan membership from different villages or different municipalities. Or you can bring the people who were orphans, because the traditional Palau, the Palawans believe that if you find the people, it's for the royal family. If you find the food, it's for them. If you find everything that you find, that's why people who were migrants to Palau always belong to the royal family or the elites. So there's a degree of kirel. Sabel means you are of the right birth, but you are also capable. If you do not have a home, definitely your women folks will not select you to be a chief. If you're a village idiot, definitely will not make it to be a chief. So we have, as you can see, you're from Ordon, so you have you have cousins that you look at them and then he said, definitely this guy will not make chief in Irai. No, yeah. Even among yourself, you're not going to say it because you're blood relatives, but you all know.
Mm-hmm.
So Kirel and then Sabel. So, and the third one is Mlamoes. Mlamoes means Over the years, you prove yourself. You drop by in Ira and there's community work in Rusar. You stop by there and say, who's in charge of this work? I said, well, I'm going fishing, but here's $1. That's all I have, dollar and a half or $5. Please keep it, so hopefully it can help a little bit. Or there's a community work, or you go to the funeral, or if you go there and they're working on the dock, you jump in the water and you help them.
Mm.
Especially if you are from the first clans, uh, when you go to the village work, you don't ask. You just go there and jump in the water, and people will come and say, hey, that guy is not supposed to be there. Karab, you're supposed to be telling us what to do. But don't be caught telling people that you're supposed to be you do the work and then you let the community bail you out from that. That's every Palawan. I go to a place and I see some elite kids in the water. I said, get off that water. You're supposed to be here. But if you're standing without jumping in, they definitely say, what does this guy think? Because Mlamoes means you have been seen. You're contributing, you're participating, you're doing everything else. Sometimes just being there and sitting there, because if you are from those elite clans, definitely you go there, they're not going to make you collect firewood. But your presence is very important. Mlamues means when it comes to fishing expedition, you were seen there. If it's IRA Aces baseball team, you were seen there. Even if you're not an ace player, but you were there giving them water, cheering the loudest and everything. That's constitute being Mlamwes. Then the fourth one is you're selected by the OROT. The question is, who are the OROT? You are, everybody else. But OROT refers to somebody who has done their share to contribute to the clan, buying the uncle's house, buying their cars at this day and age, contributing food to them. That's selected by the. So now the argument in courts in Palau, this is a reality, is they're actually arguing who among these people is supposed to be Orod. Because in the old days, if you married to a family that has money, you are the only one who will be an Orod because you can take care of the debts, buying
Providing.
the canoe, or buying those stuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Today, there's a new contemporary introduction into Palau. So if your husband cannot do it, there's they can always, you can ask your husband, do you not believe in Visa and Mastercard or Bank of Guam, Bank of Hawaii, and Bank Pacific? So the bank is actually in there to provide us cushion. So that has really, because in the past when you didn't have the valuables, you didn't have it. There was no bank to back you up. Now there is. If your mom sent you something and said, we have this custom for Frank Yota, and you're supposed to give 500 bucks. You cannot be saying, hey, I'm a poor student. In Palawan custom, don't ever be heard saying that. You have to figure out a way. That's why in the old days, if you marry and then you have a custom, and then some female kin of you said, oh, everybody of this age, maybe 20 to 30, your contribution is $1,000. Don't ever be caught saying, really can't. Because you know what they're going to say first? If you're married, where did you find this guy? It's time to dump him. Because you're an asset, and then so don't bring somebody to make you a liability. So I'm just telling you because you want to learn. That's the reality on the
Yes.
ground.
Yes.
You have to. That's why they say when uh, when they say marry right, it doesn't mean like this guy is an NFL player, and it's can this person contribute
Mm-hmm.
when there's a need.
I don't plan on
So
marrying anybody who cannot contribute, so I think
oh,
I'm set.
any, okay, and then so there are normally 10
Mm-hmm.
chiefs. There's a few exceptions like Malagyok, there's 11.
Mm-hmm.
And also in Irai, the Obakaradapkar, that's kind of chieftesses kind of the title that's elevated to the godlike level.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dialul will be the head of IRAI and sits prominently in the Bai. But it was Ngiraget who was sent. The chairmans recorded it, and we've kept it up to this day.
Mm.
So the first four Rubak, those are like the executive of this traditional Palau. One, one and three, and two and four put together. One and three, and two and four. So if there is transgressions in the community, and the fifth to the 10th or to the 11th are prosecuting this case. It's 5, 7, 9, and then 6, 8, and 10. So depending on where the transgressions is committed, if it's on the odd number, the prosecuting group is the even number, and vice versa. And then once they hear this case, then the 1, 2, 3, and 4 serve as that like the executive, they're executive, but they're also the judiciary. But they're also the ones paying the fine, because if they find the guilty party guilty as charged, if they're from the even number side, then it's the second and the fourth chiefs who are supposed to be paying. And
Mm-hmm.
even in that order, if it's on the even side, but they're closer to the second chief, it's the second chief that will be paying. If they're closer to the fourth, it's the fourth chief that will be paying. And then the first four, one of the things that have changed is in terms of the feast for accepting the title. Only the first four chiefs have a feast. Nowadays, from the 80s until today, now everybody's doing a feast for them.
Why?
Somehow, Palawans just want to add some things to this. You're supposed to be the first four chiefs, and the rest will just have a regular lunch.
Do you think it's like the introduction of Western values into Palau
Introduction
society?
of Western values, and then the business of showing off.
Mm-hmm.
Palawan traditional custom, if the first chief provided only rice and tuna for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
do not ever go over that. If you're preparing the next meal or
Mm.
meals immediately that will be recalled, do not bring steak and all those things there.
What would happen
Don't.
if that ever happened before?
If that ever happened, traditionally they will be admonished, and admonishment can be like verbal. It can be losing the rank. In traditional Palau. Now, losing the rank, they're going to be tangled up in court for the longest time. So the court system has actually created part of the problem. Just not
Complicated
just
it.
the court, but like technology, like refrigeration. I think one of the culprit for the exchanges in Palau in the past, when you go fishing and come back, within 3 to 4 hours of your fishing, you have to distribute all the fish you have. Otherwise, they'll spoil.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to boil them and you get stuck wasting firewood boiling them every day. Then freezer comes in, just throw everything in the freezer. Hey, what about auntie so and so? Let them go and buy their own stuff. So the refrigeration has played a role in the breakdown of that. It also has played a role in the conservation, because you went fishing only when you needed to fix the food for you guys, for because there were no three. One of the things that people who are learning for the first time, there is only one meal in Palau, Balsoil. There's no breakfast, there's no lunch. The name for a meal during the day is called magigarang. Magigarang is it's really a verb, literally whatever we find and whatever we do. If it's a fruit that you came across, or it's something that you came across, or something, so that's the name of the meal. There was no breakfast. And then the only one meal during the day is bulsoil. And bulsoil literally means, the whole community, the whole family need to get together and eat together and share together. So that's kind of, so 1 to 4, that's how they're selected. And then 5 to 10, they play the role of being the community. And every single title from their dukes is, for instance, they kill a dukong. Well, you cannot do that because it's It's now a Palawan offense. It's also a U.S. federal offense to kill a dugong. So now we make it out of the sweet, make out of all the meat and make them really sweet, and then they divide it according to as if it was the real animal. But also because of the reason why the chief in Irai eats the head of the pig, because they feel for the community, they speak for the community, they ache for the community, they think for the. That's why they eat. It's the worst part to be given to be eating. It has a few more meats and there's a tongue and all those things, but it's very symbolic. And then the second chief, it's the leg and then one right leg, and then so there's a breakdown of that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you think with like Palau being very spiritual traditionally and having our own religion and then the introduction of Christianity as a religion, do you think that also affected how we run things within like the Abai and how chiefs go about like eating these certain parts and having it be a symbolic representation?
Yeah, so I think there's something needs to be clarified there because Palawans were very spiritual, but not in a sense as we know it today.
Exactly,
Like as
yes.
spiritual as being Christian or Muslim or Hindu or
Yeah.
Taoism.
In our own religious
So we were
context.
very, yeah, we were very spiritual. It's mostly ancestral worship for ancestral family deities, and then the village deities, the fishing deities, the farming deities. So they're all different. And then you have, I think the best, it was best captured in the account of Palau in 1783 when Matthias Wilson was quoted as saying in that book that when Captain Wilson asked Abdul and the chiefs of Koror that if there's a day of the week where they have to not work, and then they give, and then the response by Ruur, which Abdul's brother, was same here in Palau. There's somebody who made us, and those who are good will go to that somebody, and those who are bad will go to a very bad place. So Matthias Wilson wrote in 1783, but they may not call it a church service by observing them every time they were in Ulong in the presence of the English. They asked if the time for that quiet hour was, because I think spiritually the Palawans knew that they had a concept of the spirit needs to go somewhere. We have Ngedalo and we have Olam Tumut, and those places were our spiritual cleansing before we got to those places. So I think it made us ready. And then the Modakne, as we know, it is just barely 100 years old, but it was created as a resistant movement. And
Mm.
then some smart Palawans also used this as an opportunity. They were commoners. There was no way they can reach this chieftainship. So from that perspective, it was their way to make something out of themselves. Because if you're in Palau and you're born a bull, you will die a bull. But remember, a bull is not a bull is a class.
Mm-hmm.
There's elites and there's chieftain, and then there's Abul, which is commoners.
Mm-hmm.
The literal translation of Abul is commoners.
Like, how are the hierarchies and how are the chiefs established from the very beginning of, like, let's say Palau starts here? How are they established and how do they move within families? Because you also mentioned that within the 10 chiefs, right? They can be connected to all the families within that region. How does this work when you're when you're
Yeah.
determining who's going to be the chief?
The people of elite bird, uh, when you're going to be married off, you're going to be married off to the corresponding chief. So if you in Ira in the first clan, if you go to Esa, the chances are you're looking to look at the mate from the first and the second clan of Ngesa. If that's nice looking dude in the 10th rank clan, that's off limit for you. So what happens? Glad you asked the question so that I can explain it. What if you find yourself and then you have this really unbreakable relationship established with a guy from the 10th ranking clan of the neighboring village? The term in Palawan is Torah. You sleep. and you
Mm.
lose your right. From Irai, you will be just the daughter of the first family in Irai. Never.
Right as Dr. Tellei was explaining how marriage and clan hierarchy affect a person's rights within a chiefly system, his microphone suddenly starts cutting off. So our time here in the studio is wrapping up. I would like to once again take this time and say thank you very much to Dr. Tellei for joining us on this episode of the Oceanic Podcast. It was an honor to be here and not only have this discussion with you, but to gain such valuable insight into Palau's traditional government structure, from the 10 ranking chiefs and matrilineal clans to the qualifications for leadership and how they've adapted in a changing world. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Oceanic Podcast. We would like to thank our funder, the Green Initiative Fund at UC Berkeley, as well as the Ethnic Studies Changemaker Studio for helping us record this podcast. This podcast was made possible by research and planning by CPISC co-founders Sophia Perez, Kieran Rudge, and Nate Tilton, as well as CPISC members Vib Kammerer and Georgia Cutter. CPISC's work also deeply benefits from the support of Angel Halfihi at the Pacific Islander Initiative and Dr. Clancy Wilmot in the Geography Department. We hope to see you in the next episode, where we'll continue to explore the depth and complexity of Oceania through conversations with Pacific scholars, elders, and community leaders. So long!